The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched out like a cathedral made of light and crystal. Representatives from 200 species sat in their designated sections, their forms ranging from insectoid to aquatic, to beings of pure energy contained in specialized suits. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Sarah Chen, a human woman in a simple gray suit that looked almost primitive, compared to the elaborate garments and biological displays around her. She had been standing there for 3 hours now, listening to the Kryn delegation explain why they had the right to take New Harmony. Commander Vexthor, the Kryn military leader, gestured with his forearms toward the holographic display floating above them. His species looked like a cross between a bear and a lizard, with thick armored hide and teeth that could crush steel. Behind him sat 3 other species that made up the Kryn Empire, each one built for war in their own way. The colony world designated New Harmony sits at a strategic junction of 4 trade routes, Vexthor said, his voice booming through the chamber. Furthermore, it contains deposits of refinable energy crystals that are being wasted by a population of mere farmers and artists. The Kryn Empire formally claims this world for proper utilization. Murmurs rippled through the council. Some species shifted uncomfortably. Others nodded in what might have been agreement. The council had rules, of course, but those rules often bent when powerful empires pushed hard enough. Sarah had expected this. Humanity had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. In that time, they had been friendly, eager to trade, quick to share their art and culture. They built beautiful things. They wrote poetry that made even the cold-blooded Theraxians weep. They had no natural weapons, no thick armor, no venom or claws. To most of the galaxy, humans were soft creatures who had gotten lucky with their technology. The Kryn thought humans were prey animals playing at civilization. Sarah took a slow breath and stepped forward. The council chamber fell silent. Ambassador Chen, Council Speaker Zelnoth said, her voice neutral. She was a floating being of crystalline intelligence, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. The Kryn Empire has made their claim under Provision 7 of the Territorial Expansion Act. Does humanity wish to respond? Yes, Sarah said simply. Vexthor made a sound that might have been laughter. What will you offer in trade, poetry? Perhaps a new recipe for your earth foods? Or will you simply acknowledge that you cannot hold a world that we choose to take? Sarah looked up at him. Her face showed no anger, no fear. Just a strange, terrible calm. Humanity offers nothing, she said clearly. Instead, we provide a warning. Retreat from our borders. Do not approach New Harmony. Do not threaten our people. You will not receive another chance, the chamber erupted. Some species gasped. Others laughed. The Kryn delegation stood as one, their massive forms radiating outrage. You warn us? Vexthor roared. We have conquered 47 species. We have fleets that darken the stars. You are small, weak creatures with no claws and thin skin. What possible threat could you pose? Sarah reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data crystal. She held it up. Council Speaker, I request permission to present evidence to the Assembly. Zelnoth considered this. Granted. The holographic display shifted. Images began to play. They showed Earth, humanity's homeworld, at various points in its history. The images were not pleasant. Trenches filled with mud and bodies, cities burning under atomic fire, jungles where soldiers fought and died for inches of ground, deserts littered with destroyed vehicles, oceans stained with oil and blood. The numbers scrolled alongside the images. 20 million dead in one war, 60 million in another, hundreds of smaller conflicts, each with their own terrible count. And through it all, humans kept fighting, kept adapting, kept building new and more terrible ways to kill each other. What is this? Someone in the council asked, their voice horrified. This is what we did to ourselves, Sarah said quietly. Before we reached the stars, we spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war. We fought over land, over resources, over ideas. We created weapons that could end all life on our planet. And we learned something important. She turned to face Vexthor directly. We learned that we are very, very good at destruction. We learned how to fight when we're outnumbered, how to survive when we're outgunned, how to turn entire populations into armies, how to keep fighting when any sane species would surrender. The images kept playing. Humans fighting in frozen mountains, humans fighting in burning deserts, humans fighting in their own ruined cities, always fighting, always finding new ways to resist. We learned, Sarah continued, that when you push us hard enough, we don't break. We don't surrender. We become something darker, something single-minded, Something that will burn everything down rather than lose. Vexthor snorted. Ancient history. Primitive barbarism. Modern warfare is fought with ships and shields and coordinated fleet actions. Your muddy trenches mean nothing. You're right, Sarah said. It is ancient history. And do you know why we stopped fighting each other? Silence, because we finally had something else to focus on. The stars. Discovery, building something better. But that knowledge, that experience, that ability, it doesn't go away. We just chose not to use it anymore. She looked around the council chamber, meeting the eyes of as many representatives as she could. For 50 years, we've been good neighbors. We've been artists and scientists and philosophers. We've shared everything we have. And in that time, you've all decided that we're weak, that we're easy prey. Sarah's voice remained calm, but something in her tone made several council members lean back in their seats. You're mistaken. We're not weak. We're patient. We're not prey. We're dormant predators who chose to be something better. But if you force us to remember what we are, if you take that choice away from us, then you'll learn the same lesson we learned about ourselves. And what lesson is that? Vexthor demanded. That humans are not special because we're strong or fast or armored. We're special because we never ever stop. You can beat us in 1 battle, 10 battles, 100 battles. It won't matter. We'll keep coming. We'll adapt. We'll learn. And eventually we'll win. Not because we're better warriors than you, but because we want peace so badly that we'll destroy anyone who takes it from us. Sarah turned back to the council speaker. Humanity has delivered its warning. We are now recalling all our diplomats from Kryn space. We are closing our borders to Kryn ships. If they approach New Harmony, if they threaten our people, then we will respond. And we will not stop responding until the threat is permanently ended. She began walking toward the exit. Behind her, Vexthor shouted, You think you can threaten the Kryn Empire? We will take your little farm world and you will do nothing. Sarah stopped at the doorway. She looked back one last time. We taught ourselves what war really means, she said quietly. Don't make us teach you. Then she was gone. The council chamber dissolved into chaos. Some species demanded intervention. Others called for sanctions against humanity. A few, the older species who had seen war before, sat in silence and wondered if they should have stopped the Kryn earlier. Zelnoth watched it all with her ancient, crystalline mind. She had seen thousands of conflicts in her long existence. She knew the patterns. She knew how these things ended, and she knew with terrible certainty that the Kryn had just made a fatal mistake. 2 weeks later, the Kryn fleet assembled at their border. 200 warships, the largest fleet they had deployed in 50 years. They pointed themselves toward New Harmony. They had been warned. They didn't listen. The Kryn fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Harmony system. 200 warships, their hulls bristling with weapons, their shields already powered up for combat. In the command ship, Vexthor studied the tactical display with satisfaction. 15 defense platforms, he noted, and no fleet in sight. Just as our intelligence predicted, the humans are too spread out to defend all their colonies. His tactical officer, a younger Kryn named Dexmar, gestured at the planet below. 3 million civilians on the surface, Commander. Should we prepare boarding parties for the evacuation processing? Vexthor made a dismissive sound. First, we give them a chance to be reasonable. Open a channel. The communication went out on all frequencies aimed at both the defense platforms and the planet below. Attention, human colony, New Harmony. This system is now claimed by the Kryn Empire. You have 24 hours to evacuate your non-essential personnel and surrender control of all infrastructure. Comply and you will be allowed to leave peacefully. Resist and you will be removed by force. They waited and waited. No response came from the planet. The defense platforms maintained their positions but didn't power up their weapons. Typical prey behavior, Vexthor said. They're frozen with fear. We'll give them their 24 hours. I want to be able to tell the council we followed proper procedure. The hours ticked by. Kryn sensors watched the planet carefully. They detected movement, lots of it, but it wasn't what they expected. Instead of ships launching or crowds gathering at spaceports, the sensors showed people moving inland, away from the cities, disappearing underground. They're hiding, Dexmar reported. Thermal signatures suggest extensive underground facilities, deeper than normal colony shelters. Vexthor frowned. How deep? Some of them go down several miles, Commander. That's unusual for a farming colony. Doesn't matter. We control the surface, we control the world. Make a note of the shelter locations. We'll dig them out if necessary. When the 24 hours ended, Vexthor gave the order. The Kryn fleet advanced. The 15 defense platforms finally came to life, their weapons systems glowing hot. What happened next surprised the Kryn, but only briefly. The defense platforms fought like they were alive and angry. They didn't try to defend fixed positions. They dodged, weaved, used the planet's gravity well to slingshot themselves into unexpected attack angles. Each platform seemed to have a different personality, a different fighting style. One platform rammed itself directly into a Kryn battlecruiser, its self-destruct taking out the larger ship and 2 escorts. Another platform went dark, playing dead, then lit up with full weapons fire when 3 Kryn ships got close. A third platform broadcast human music over all channels while it tore through a squadron of fighters. Some kind of ancient battle song with guitars and drums. The Kryn destroyed all 15 platforms, but it took them 4 hours and cost them 23 ships. Acceptable losses, Vexthor reported to his superiors. The platforms are destroyed. Beginning ground assault. 40,000 Kryn shock troops descended on New Harmony. They were the best warriors the Empire had, trained in urban combat, equipped with power armor and heavy weapons. They landed in the empty cities first, expecting to secure them quickly. The cities were deserted. Buildings stood empty. Streets were silent. But as the Kryn troops spread out, things started going wrong. A squad entered a building and the entire structure collapsed on them. Another group triggered a pressure plate in the street and found themselves caught in an explosion of chemical fire. A third team pursued thermal signatures into what looked like a shelter entrance, only to discover it was a trap leading to a gas-filled chamber. The humans weren't fighting like soldiers. They were fighting like ghosts. They appeared from sewers, from hidden tunnels, from inside walls. They used weapons that seemed primitive, projectile rifles and explosive devices, but they used them with terrifying effectiveness. They didn't stand and fight. They struck from ambush, killed as many Kryn as they could, then vanished before reinforcements arrived. On the third day, Dexmar brought troubling news to the command ship. Commander, we've lost contact with the mining operation at the northern settlement. 40 troops were stationed there. When we sent scouts, we found them all dead. But that's not the unusual part. What is? They weren't just killed. The entire mining facility was rigged to explode. The humans destroyed billions of credits worth of refinement equipment rather than let us have it. Vexthor stared at the report. They destroyed their own infrastructure? Yes, sir. And we're getting similar reports from 4 other locations. Every major resource extraction point has been demolished. The humans are conducting scorched earth tactics against their own colony. A message came in from one of the ground commanders. Vexthor listened with growing frustration. We found a group of them, Commander. About 30 humans holed up in an agricultural center. We offered them terms of surrender. They refused. We're preparing to assault the position. How many troops do you have? Vexthor asked. 200, sir. Should be more than sufficient. Proceed. And Commander? Take at least one alive. I want to understand why they're being so irrational. The assault began at dawn. The Kryn forces surrounded the agricultural center and moved in with overwhelming numbers. The humans inside had no heavy weapons, no armor, nothing but small arms and determination. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it finally ended, the agricultural center was rubble, and every single human inside was dead. But so were 73 Kryn soldiers. Not killed in fair combat, but through traps, ambushes, and desperate last stands. The humans had rigged their own position with explosives, collapsed sections of the building on advancing troops, and fought room by room until the very end. One human, a woman who had been a schoolteacher before the invasion, had killed 8 Kryn soldiers by herself before dying. The Kryn found her body surrounded by the enemies she'd taken with her. She'd been armed with nothing but a mining tool and homemade explosives. The reports kept coming in. Farmers fighting like commandos. Artists using their knowledge of the colony's layout to set perfect ambushes. Scientists creating improvised weapons from mining equipment and agricultural chemicals. Children as young as 12 running messages between resistance cells through tunnels the Kryn couldn't fit into. Every human on New Harmony was fighting. Not because they were soldiers, but because they refused to stop being free. Weeks passed. The Kryn controlled the surface, technically. They held the ruins of the cities and the bombed-out settlements. But they couldn't use any of it. The humans had destroyed or booby-trapped everything of value, and they kept fighting, in the tunnels, in the forests, In the mountains. Everywhere and nowhere. Vexthor received the casualty reports in his command ship and couldn't believe what he was seeing. 40,000 troops? He said to Dexmar. We've lost 40,000 troops to secure one farming colony? Yes, Commander. And we still don't have full control. The humans have retreated to the deep shelters and tunnel networks. Our engineers estimate it would take years to dig them all out, and we'd lose thousands more doing it. This is insane. Why won't they surrender? We've won. We control the planet. Dexmar looked at his commander with something like pity. Have we won, sir? We can't use the resources. We can't safely land settlers. Every day we lose more troops to attacks. And I've been monitoring human communications from other colonies. They're calling this a victory. A victory? We're occupying their world. Yes, but look at the cost. Every other species in the galaxy is watching this. They're seeing that it takes 40,000 of our best troops 3 weeks just to occupy a single human farming world. And the humans are sending a message. What message? That this is what happens to just one of their colonies. That every world we try to take will cost us this much. That they'll make us bleed for every meter of ground. That they'll destroy everything rather than let us have it. Vexthor turned back to his display. On it, New Harmony glowed peacefully, looking serene from orbit. But on the surface, his troops were still dying. Still fighting ghosts who refused to give up. Commander, his communication officer said suddenly, we're receiving a transmission from the Kryn homeworld. It's marked urgent, highest priority. Put it through. The face of the High Commander appeared on the screen. He looked worried, which was something Vexthor had never seen before. Vexthor, report on New Harmony status. We control the surface, High Commander, mopping up the last resistance. Casualties are higher than anticipated, but nothing we cannot sustain. The High Commander was quiet for a moment. It doesn't matter anymore. Pull your fleet back to the border immediately. Sir, we're close to total victory here. Just a few more weeks and Vexthor. The humans are coming, not their defense forces, their entire fleet. Every ship they have. And they're not coming here. Vexthor felt something cold settle in his stomach. Where are they going, sir? Home. They're coming to our home systems. All 3 of them, simultaneously. They've split their fleet into 3 attack groups and they're bypassing all our border defenses. We need every ship back now, but that's suicide. They'd be leaving their own worlds undefended. We could... Admiral Marcus Zhang stood on the bridge of the UHS Indomitable, watching the tactical display with eyes that showed no emotion. Around him, his crew worked in focused silence. They had been drilling for this moment for weeks, ever since the Kryn fleet appeared at New Harmony. The display showed 3 separate fleet groups, each one heading toward a different Kryn homeworld. Zhang commanded the largest group, 150 warships heading directly for the Kryn capital world. 2 other admirals commanded similar forces aimed at the other 2 Kryn species home systems. Status report, Zhang said quietly. All ships reporting ready. Admiral, his tactical officer replied. We'll reach the Kryn capital system in 40 minutes. Enemy defenses are activating, but they're not expecting us to come directly at them. Their main fleet is still scattered, trying to defend their border worlds. Zhang nodded. The Kryn had made a fundamental mistake. They thought like conquerors. They spread their forces out to control territory, to project power across their empire. But humans had learned a different lesson from their brutal history. In war, you don't capture territory. You destroy your enemy's ability to make war. Everything else is just details. Open a fleet-wide channel, Zhang ordered. The communication officer nodded. Channel open, sir. Zhang spoke calmly, but his words carried across 150 ships. In 24 hours, the Kryn attacked New Harmony. They killed 3,000 civilians in their initial bombardment. They destroyed settlements that had taken decades to build. And they did it because they thought we were weak. Because they thought we would accept their invasion and do nothing. He paused, letting his words sink in. They were wrong. Today we teach the galaxy what happens when you attack humanity. We don't negotiate. We don't bargain. We end the threat permanently and completely. All ships will follow the rules of engagement exactly. Military targets only, precision strikes, no unnecessary casualties among civilians. But understand this, we are going to break them. We are going to break them so badly that no one will ever think about attacking humanity again. He gestured to cut the channel. Then he turned to his weapons officer. Prepare the first strike package. Every ship full payload. I want their orbital defenses gone in the first 60 seconds. Across human space, the response to the Kryn invasion was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. On Earth, the great manufacturing centers that had been dormant for decades roared back to life. Facilities that had been making peaceful colony ships and research vessels switched their production lines overnight. Factories that built farming equipment started building weapons. Assembly lines that produced medical supplies started producing ammunition. The speed of it shocked the galactic observers. Within 1 week, human industrial output had tripled. Within 2 weeks, it had increased tenfold. How are they doing this? A Thraxian economic analyst asked, watching the data in disbelief. Our projections said it would take them months to mobilize their economy for war. His colleague, an older Thraxian who had studied human history, shook his head slowly. They've done this before, many times. They know exactly how to convert peaceful production to military production because they've practiced it on their own world for thousands of years. But the resources alone, they're not asking for volunteers or waiting for government approval. Every human factory, every mining operation, every shipyard is just doing it like they've been waiting for this, like they always knew it might be necessary. On Mars, the shipyards that usually produce 2 or 3 new ships per month were now launching 2 or 3 per day. They weren't elegant ships or comfortable ships. They were weapons platforms built with one purpose: to destroy Kryn vessels as efficiently as possible. In the asteroid belt, mining operations that extracted resources for peaceful purposes were now feeding the war machine with a steady stream of raw materials. Human efficiency, normally applied to farming and art and science, had turned toward destruction, and it was terrifying. The first human fleet arrived at the Kryn capital system exactly 40 minutes after Zhang's speech. They came out of faster-than-light travel already firing, their weapons pre-targeted based on intelligence gathered over 50 years of peaceful observation. The Kryn orbital defenses tried to respond. Massive platforms, bristling with weapons, powered up their shields and began firing at the human ships. They were formidable defenses, capable of holding off any normal fleet. But the human attack wasn't normal. Every ship fired simultaneously, not at each other, not in a scattered barrage, but in precise, coordinated strikes. 50 ships concentrated their fire on a single defense platform, overwhelming its shields in seconds. Then they moved to the next target. And the next. In 90 seconds, the orbital defenses were gone. The Kryn defense fleet scrambled to intercept, 75 warships launching from their docks in desperate haste. They had numbers, they had weapons. They had experience from conquering 47 other species. They had never fought humans before. The human fleet didn't try to outmaneuver them or engage in traditional space combat tactics. Instead, they did something the Kryn found incomprehensible. They split into small groups and went hunting. 5 human ships would target one Kryn vessel, hitting it from multiple angles simultaneously. They used tactics that seemed wasteful, even suicidal. Ships would sacrifice their shields to get a perfect shot. Others would use themselves as bait, drawing enemy fire while their companions struck from behind. It was brutal, efficient, and utterly without regard for fair play or honor. They fight like pirates. A Kryn captain screamed into his communicator as his ship took fire from 3 directions at once. They have no honor. Honor doesn't win wars, Zhang said quietly, though the Kryn captain couldn't hear him. Victory does. The battle for the Kryn capital system lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the Kryn defense fleet was destroyed. Not damaged, not defeated. Destroyed. Every ship was either debris or burning wreckage. The human fleet had lost 18 ships. Zhang considered it an acceptable ratio. Now came the part he hated. Communications broadcast on all frequencies to the planet below. Make sure every Kryn can hear this. Channel open, Admiral. Zhang took a breath. This is Admiral Marcus Zhang of the United Human Fleet. The Kryn Empire attacked our colony world New Harmony without provocation. You were warned. You chose to ignore that warning. Now you face the consequences. On the planet below, billions of Kryn civilians looked up at their skies, where human warships now hung like predators. We are now targeting all military installations on your planet, all spaceports capable of launching warships, all factories producing military equipment, all command centers, all communications arrays, all infrastructure that supports your war machine. You have 1 hour to evacuate these areas. After that, we will destroy them. He paused, then continued in the same flat, emotionless tone. We do not target civilians. We do not destroy cities unless they contain military objectives. But understand, we are not here to occupy your world or govern your people. We are here to ensure you can never threaten humanity again. The hour passed. The Kryn military tried to mobilize, tried to protect their key installations. It didn't matter. The human fleet began its bombardment. Precision strikes from orbit, guided by decades of intelligence gathering. Every shot hit exactly what it was meant to hit. Spaceports exploded. Factories dissolved into molten craters. Command bunkers built to survive anything simply ceased to exist. The Kryn had conquered 47 species. They had fought hundreds of battles, but they had never experienced anything like this. The humans weren't trying to conquer or occupy. They were systematically dismantling the Kryn's ability to wage war, piece by piece, with mechanical efficiency. Similar scenes played out at the other two Kryn homeworlds. 3 human fleets, 3 simultaneous attacks, 3 species that had thought themselves invincible, watching their military power get erased in a matter of hours. The Galactic Council watched it all through their observation networks. The chamber was silent as the representatives saw what humans were capable of when pushed too far. "They're not even using their full fleet," someone whispered. "These are just the first wave forces. They have twice as many ships still in reserve." Council Speaker Zelnoth observed it all with her ancient mind. She had tried to warn the Kryn in her own subtle way. She had known what humans were capable of. Because she had studied their history, a species didn't go from killing each other with stone tools to splitting atoms in just 10,000 years unless they were exceptionally good at finding new ways to destroy things. And humans had spent most of those 10,000 years practicing on each other. Now they had a new target. On the Kryn capital world, the High Commander watched his military infrastructure burning from orbit. He had started this war thinking it would be easy. One small farming colony, defended by prey animals who happened to have discovered space travel. Now his homeworld was defenseless. His fleet was destroyed, and the humans had made their point clear. He opened a communication channel to the human fleet, his pride breaking under the weight of necessity. "Admiral Zhang, the Kryn High Command requests terms of surrender." Zhang's response was immediate and cold. "We gave you terms 2 weeks ago. You refused them." The Kryn Empire had existed for 300 years. It had been built on strength, maintained by fear, and expanded through overwhelming military force. In 3 weeks it began to fall apart. The first crack appeared on Velkar, a world the Kryn had conquered a century ago. The Velkari were a peaceful species, small and quick, with no natural weapons. They had accepted Kryn rule because resistance seemed impossible. They paid their tributes, followed the laws, and tried to survive. But they had seen the broadcast from the Kryn homeworlds. They had watched human fleets destroy what they thought was unbeatable. They had heard the Kryn High Command begging for mercy and getting none. If the mighty Kryn could be broken, then maybe freedom was possible. The rebellion started in a single city. Velkari workers stopped reporting to the mining facilities. When Kryn overseers came to investigate, they found the facilities locked and barricaded. When they tried to force their way in, explosions tore through the buildings. The Velkari had spent 100 years learning from their conquerors. Now they were putting those lessons to use. The Kryn garrison on Velkar tried to suppress the rebellion quickly. They sent troops to restore order, but the rebellion spread faster than they could move. Within 3 days, 5 cities were in open revolt. Within a week, the entire planet was burning. And then the messages started reaching other Kryn-controlled worlds. They can bleed. They can die. We watched the humans prove it. If they can do it, so can we. On 18 different worlds, the subject species of the Kryn Empire saw their opportunity. Some rebelled openly. Others engaged in sabotage and resistance. A few simply refused to work, collapsing the infrastructure the Kryn relied on. The Kryn military found itself trapped. The human fleets were still hitting their core worlds, destroying their shipyards and factories. Now their own empire was tearing itself apart from within. They didn't have enough troops to fight on all fronts simultaneously. They had to make choices. Pull forces back to protect the homeworlds, or suppress the rebellions. Every choice was wrong. Commander Vexthor sat in his command ship, still orbiting New Harmony, and watched his empire crumble through the tactical display. Orders kept coming in, each one more desperate than the last. All fleets return to the core worlds immediately. Abandon border positions. Garrison forces on Velkar, Therex, and Morndal are requesting immediate reinforcement. Rebellion spreading. Human forces have destroyed the shipyards at Krintal. Production capacity reduced by 40%. Dexmar approached him quietly. Sir, we have new orders. We're to return to the capital system with all available ships. And the garrison on New Harmony? No mention of them, sir. Bexthor looked down at the planet where he had left 20,000 Kryn troops. They were still there, still trying to control a world full of humans who refused to be controlled. He had no way to evacuate them. No ships to spare. He was abandoning them. Prepare the fleet to jump, he said quietly. While the Kryn Empire burned from rebellions and human attacks, something else was happening, something more subtle and more devastating. Humanity had unleashed its information warriors. Every species in the galaxy suddenly found themselves flooded with messages, images, and videos, not from their governments, not from the Council, from human sources broadcasting on every frequency and every language. They showed the Kryn attacking New Harmony. They showed the human warning at the Council. They showed the Kryn laughing at the idea of human resistance. And then they showed what happened next. The messages were carefully crafted. Not propaganda but facts, cold hard facts about what happened when you threatened humanity. They warned them once. The Kryn ignored it. This is what mercy looks like when mercy is rejected. But there were other messages too. Messages aimed at the Kryn themselves. Messages that played on every screen, every communication device, every public display in Kryn territory. They showed Kryn soldiers dying on New Harmony, killed by farmers and artists. They showed the Kryn fleets being destroyed by human precision. They showed the High Command's desperate pleas for negotiation being rejected. And then they showed something else. Footage of human soldiers rebuilding worlds they had fought on. Medical teams treating wounded enemies. Engineers helping to restore infrastructure on defeated planets. Surrender now, the messages said, and we will help you rebuild. We will treat your wounded. We will let you keep your homes, your families, your dignity. Keep fighting, and we will erase you. It was psychological warfare on a scale the galaxy had never seen, and it worked. Kryn soldiers on dozens of worlds started surrendering, not to the rebellions, not to other galactic powers, to humanity specifically, because the humans had shown them two faces, the face of absolute destruction for those who fought, and the face of mercy for those who gave up. The choice seemed obvious. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session for the third time in 2 weeks. The chamber was chaos. Representatives were shouting, demanding intervention, calling for sanctions, begging for someone to stop what was happening. Ambassador Chen walked into the chamber for the first time since delivering her warning. The noise died instantly. Every being in the room turned to look at her. She walked calmly to the human delegation section and stood there, waiting. Council Speaker Zelnoth's voice carried across the silence. Ambassador Chen, the Council has been attempting to contact Earth for 10 days. You have not responded to our communications. We've been busy, Chen said simply. Busy destroying one of the galaxy's major powers. Busy defending ourselves, Chen corrected. The Kryn attacked us. We responded. Exactly as we said we would. This goes beyond defense. You've crippled their entire empire. You've inspired rebellions across 20 systems. You're conducting warfare on a scale that threatens the stability of the entire galactic community. Chen's expression didn't change. You had 50 years to stop them. 50 years to tell the Kryn that conquering peaceful species was unacceptable. 50 years to enforce the Council's own laws about territorial aggression. You chose neutrality. You chose to let them expand. You chose to look away when they threatened us. We tried diplomatic solutions. You tried nothing. Chen's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. You watched them conquer 47 species. You watched them build an empire on oppression. And when they came for us, when they ignored our warning and attacked our people, you expected us to accept it, to negotiate, to surrender. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every representative who would look back. We are not one of your 47 conquered species. We will not be the 48th. And if that requires us to destroy the Kryn Empire, if it requires us to remake the galactic balance of power, then that is what we will do. A Theraxian representative stood. But the cost, the suffering. Surely there must be another way. There was another way, Chen said coldly. We offered it. The Kryn refused. Every species in this chamber watched us offer peace. You watched them laugh at us. You watched them attack our home. And now you want to tell us we're using too much force to defend ourselves? She walked toward the center of the chamber. No one stopped her. Let me be very clear about something. Humanity didn't start this war. We tried to avoid it. We warned them. We followed every law, every protocol, every rule of civilized conduct. But when war came to us anyway, we chose to win. Completely, permanently, so that no one would ever think about doing this to us again. You're not just defeating them, someone shouted. You're destroying them. Yes, Chen said simply. We are. Because half measures don't work. Proportional responses don't work. In war, you either win or you lose. There is no middle ground. The Kryn taught the galaxy that lesson with 47 conquests. We're just better students than they expected. Zelnoth spoke again, her crystalline voice tired. And when this is over? When the Kryn Empire is gone and their species are broken? What then, Ambassador Chen? Chen turned to face the council speaker directly. Then we rebuild. We help. We show them the same mercy we wanted to show them from the beginning. But they'll remember. Their children will remember. And when the next species thinks about attacking humanity, when they think we're easy prey because we prefer peace, they'll remember what happened to the Kryn. You're teaching the galaxy to fear you, Zelnoth said quietly. No, Chen replied. We're teaching the galaxy to respect us. Fear and respect look the same from the outside. But there's a crucial difference. Fear makes you attack when you think you have an advantage. Respect makes you think twice before attacking at all. She walked back toward the exit. Before leaving, she turned one more time. The Kryn Empire is falling. Those of you who want to help pick up the pieces are welcome to do so. Those of you who think about taking advantage of the chaos to expand your own territories should remember that we're watching. And we have a lot of ships now. A lot of ships with nothing to do once the Kryn are finished. She left the chamber in silence. In the void of space, Admiral Zhang received new orders from Earth. They were simple and clear. Continue operations. Accept surrenders. Minimize civilian casualties. But do not stop until the Kryn can never threaten us again. Zhang looked at his tactical display. The Kryn fleets were scattered. Their command structure was collapsing and their empire was tearing itself apart. 6 months had passed since the fall of the Kryn Empire. The galaxy looked different now, felt different. On the former Kryn capital world, human engineers worked alongside Kryn civilians to rebuild what the war had destroyed. Medical teams from Earth treated the wounded without asking which side they had fought on. Agricultural specialists helped restore farming operations that had been neglected during the decades of military focus. It confused the Kryn at first. They had expected occupation, slavery, revenge. Instead, they got help. But they also got monuments. In the center of the capital city, where the High Command building had once stood, there was now a memorial. It was made of simple black stone, carved with words in every language the Kryn Empire had conquered. At the top, in human English, it read, "Humanity warned them once. They'll never get another chance." Below that were the names. Every human who had died on New Harmony, every soldier who had died in the counterattack, every civilian casualty from every battle. The list was long, but not as long as it could have been, and at the bottom, one final inscription. "We remember what war costs. May you never forget." Similar monuments stood on every former Kryn world, not as symbols of victory, but as reminders. The humans wanted everyone to remember what had happened. What could happen again if anyone made the same mistake? Dexmar stood in front of the memorial in his home city. He had survived the war. Many of his friends had not. He read the inscription again, trying to understand the species that had destroyed his empire, and then helped rebuild it. "It's strange, isn't it?" a voice said beside him. Dexmar turned to see a human woman, middle-aged, wearing the simple uniform of the Reconstruction Corps. Her name tag said Chen. "You're the ambassador," he said, recognition dawning. "The one who warned us." "I am," Sarah Chen said. "Though I'm mostly doing reconstruction work now. Building things is more satisfying than talking politics." They stood in silence for a moment, looking at the memorial. "I don't understand you," Dexmar admitted. "You destroyed us. You could have enslaved us, killed us, taken everything we had. Instead, you're helping us rebuild. Why?" Chen considered the question carefully. "Because we remember what it's like to lose a war. We've lost wars to each other. We know what it means to be defeated, And we learned something important from those experiences. What? That the way you treat your defeated enemies determines what kind of peace you have afterward. If you enslave them, they'll hate you forever. If you destroy them completely, you become monsters. But if you defeat them and then help them rebuild, if you show them a better way, sometimes you can turn an enemy into a neighbor. Dexmar gestured at the monument. But you want us to remember. You want us to remember that you could destroy us again if we threaten you. Yes, Chen said simply. We do because we prefer peace, but we're not naive. We know that kindness can be mistaken for weakness, so we're making it very clear. We're kind by choice, not because we can't be dangerous. She pointed to the list of human names on the monument. Every one of those people died because we tried to avoid war. We gave warnings. We followed the rules. We hoped diplomacy would work. And they still died. We won't forget that. And we want to make sure the galaxy doesn't forget it either. Dexmar looked at her. Are you here to supervise us? To make sure we don't rebuild our military? Yes, Chen said. But also to help. The two aren't mutually exclusive. We'll be here for 50 years, making sure you don't threaten anyone again. But we'll also be here teaching, trading, sharing knowledge. By the time we leave, we hope you'll be part of the galactic community as partners, not conquerors. And if we refuse? Chen's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes made Dexmar remember the broadcasts of human fleets destroying Kryn warships. Then we'll stay longer. But I don't think you'll refuse. You've seen what we can do. More importantly, you've seen what we're willing to do. The choice of what happens next is yours. She walked away, leaving Dexmar alone with the monument and his thoughts. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on every former Kryn world. Humans helping to rebuild, but also reminding everyone of the cost of aggression. It was a careful balance, show mercy but maintain strength. Help your former enemies but never let them forget why they're former enemies. On Velkar, the world where the first rebellion had started, the Velkari celebrated their freedom. Human ships had provided support during their uprising, and now human engineers were helping them build their own defense fleet. Why help us? A Velkari leader asked the human captain overseeing the project. We're not allied with you. We're not part of your territory, the captain smiled. Because you fought for your freedom. We respect that. And because we want neighbors, not subjects. The galaxy is a better place when species are free to determine their own destiny. Even if that destiny might one day conflict with humanity's interests, even then, we'd rather negotiate with free species who disagree with us than control enslaved ones who hate us. It's messier, but it's more honest. The captain paused, then added, Besides, you've seen what happens to species that attack us. You know the price of aggression. We're betting that most species, given the choice between peaceful cooperation and suicidal war, will choose cooperation. The Velkari leader thought about the broadcasts they had all seen, the monuments they had heard about, the Kryn Empire that no longer existed. That seems like a safe bet, he said quietly. At the Galactic Council, the chamber was fuller than usual. The Kryn species were there, separated now into 4 independent delegations instead of one empire. The 47 species they had conquered were there as well, many of them speaking at a council meeting for the first time in decades. Ambassador Chen stood at the human delegation's position, watching the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. The council was different now. More voices, more perspectives, less concentration of power in the hands of a few large empires. The council recognizes Ambassador Chen of humanity, Zelnoth announced. Chen stood. Thank you, Council Speaker. Humanity wishes to address the recent changes in galactic governance structure. She looked around the chamber, meeting eyes with representatives from dozens of species. 6 months ago, we went to war. It was not a war we wanted. It was not a war we started, but it was a war we finished. In the process, we learned some uncomfortable truths about the galactic community. The chamber was silent. We learned that the Council's rules are only enforced when it's convenient. We learned that aggressive empires can conquer dozens of species without consequence as long as they're strong enough. We learned that warnings and diplomacy mean nothing to those who believe might makes right. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably, but we also learned something else. We learned that many species in this galaxy want peace, want cooperation, want to build something better. They were just held back by empires that ruled through fear and force. Chen gestured to the former Kryn territory's representatives. Humanity doesn't want an empire. We don't want to conquer or control other species. What we want is a galactic community where aggressive expansion is actually punished, where warnings are taken seriously, where peaceful species can exist without constant threat. She paused, letting her words sink in. To that end, humanity proposes a new defense pact. Any species that joins can call on the others for protection against unprovoked aggression. Not an empire, not a military alliance aimed at conquest. Just a mutual promise: attack one of us and you attack all of us. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some species seemed interested. Others worried. Won't this just make humanity the new dominant power? Someone asked. Possibly, Chen admitted. But there's a crucial difference. We're offering membership, not demanding submission. You're free to refuse. You're free to leave if you join and decide you don't like it. And the pact has one ironclad rule. It can only be invoked for defense, never for aggression. Zelnoth spoke, her ancient voice thoughtful. And who determines what counts as defense versus aggression? The Council, Chen said. Free-formed with representation from all member species, not just the powerful ones. We'll have disputes. We'll have disagreements. But we'll have them through debate and negotiation, not through military conquest. She looked directly at the council speaker. You asked me 6 months ago what happens when this is over. This is our answer. We rebuild, we help, and we create something better. But we also make it very clear to everyone that if they break the peace, if they ignore warnings, if they think they can take what isn't theirs, we'll do it again. Do what again? A young representative asked nervously. Chen's expression didn't change. Whatever is necessary. The vote on humanity's defense pact took 3 weeks. In the end, 73 species joined immediately. Others were considering it. The galaxy was realigning itself, not around military power or economic dominance, but around a simple principle: peace through strength, but strength in service of peace. On New Harmony, the reconstruction was nearly complete. The cities had been rebuilt stronger than before. The farms were producing again. The defense platforms that ringed the planet were new, more advanced, and openly armed. A memorial stood in the center of the capital city, listing the names of everyone who had died defending the colony. Above their names, an inscription: